The Will of Hate is the third full-length album from Teeth, a Los Angeles, California area death metal band who started out about 10 years ago as more of a sludge death metal band. They were kind of taking cues from Ulcerate at the time and shifting between more technical death metal and sludge metal and post-metal and kind of making those things work together in their own way. Their first record, there was nothing really wrong with it. It wasn't really my style, but it was not bad at all. It was a good place to start, and they changed quite a bit in terms of some of the lineup and some of the way they approach things by the time they hit The Curse of Entropy in 2019. They always had a little bit of a grindcore edge to their sound, kind of a death grind and tech death kind of going on with their sound, and it sort of became a more emergent attack on that second album. And I think that was a pretty exciting record, but it was also not a very substantial record. It didn't feel like it really made a huge statement, but it was awesome in the moment. So good things to say about that one back then. And I thought that their follow-up EP Finite in 2021, it kind of reached for death metal a little bit more, but it was juxtaposing the more atmospheric possibilities of their sound with the more pure and aggressive death metal side. So it was a little bit more brutal, a little bit more atmospheric. And I figured that's kind of where The Will of Hate was going. You figured that they found that dynamic and they were going to expand upon it there. But something a little bit different happens for this record, and I think they're better for it. I think they made a good choice here in deciding to do something even more different on this record. So we'll cut to a clip and get a sense for how that sounds. So in a way, this sounds a little bit more pure death metal in a more modern sense, a post-millennial kind of sense for it, in that it is very cleanly produced, it is very technical, is very focused on its style of riffing, and it kind of goes between slower, sludgier, kind of what I would associate with like 2000s era Morbid Angel, and a little bit of the groove that Gorguts incorporated between Obscura and From Wisdom to Hate. So there's a lot of angrier, more aggressive points on this record, and they don't really float into the atmospheric stuff as much. So these are shorter, kind of quickly bumped through songs that find their groove, and that's usually the point of the song where it's most interesting. They're emphasizing the technical death metal aspects of their sound. It sounds very professional, it sounds modern, but it also has the raw aggression and the dark point of interest that death metal needs to really hold a broader interest in terms of people who know what they're listening to. I think they've done well to balance what is authentic and what is their own, what is new and what is old, into a record that is pretty surreal. It's pretty aggressive overall, and it's satisfying in its listen. It's not necessarily always for me, but I think that if you're in for a record that is focused the way a lot of proper classic death metal records were from a certain era, I think they've done well to capture that and hone in on some of their best features and talents overall in terms of generating atmosphere and technical death metal. So there's something that is distinct about this record that's forming, and I hope they kind of follow along this path, because I think it's a good one and an interesting one. That released on August 30th. I gave it a moderately high recommendation. I think that'll depend on your taste, of course, and what you're looking for in a death metal record. This one is bound to impress folks who are looking for something that's a little bit different, that isn't just plain and kind of dry grooves and old school sounds and all that. So there was a lot of interest for me on that part of it, but I think the actual riffs don't always, they're not all that exciting for me. So otherwise, read my review for more of my thoughts. There's plenty more there to pick through, and see if this is your kind of death metal record.